Austin, Texas. KVRX broadcast at 3,000 watts and 91.7 megahertz every weekday from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. and on weekends from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. KVRX shares its frequency with Co-op Radio. KVRX also streams online 24/7. KVRX values continued support and funding from listeners like you. Donations may be made out to the University of Texas and sent to KVRX Student Radio, P.O. Box D, Austin, Texas 78713-7209, or online at kvrx.org. KVRX would like to remind its listeners that all content expressed during programming does not necessarily reflect the views of KVRX, its DJs, underwriters, or the University of Texas at Austin. KVRX, your Texas Independent Music Authority. And here at the 7 o'clock hour, it's the pregame show, normally with Mark Skoll, but he's here with me too. Brooks Gabina here. I just wanted to intro in with me and my Skoll brother over here talking about lots of sports and stuff. And I know you've got a lot of valuable listeners that have been sending you a lot of stuff, Mark, so I'll let you take it away from here.
Well, Brooks, glad to have you on the show tonight. We'll just jump right into Mark's mailbag, where you send me some Twitter questions.
Oh, I love this.
All right, so, Brooks, I'm not sure if you pay attention to Chicago sports as much as I do, but today, Brandon Marshall was traded for a fifth-round pick to the New York Jets.
Yeah.
So, personally, as a Bears fan and as a Brandon Marshall fan, I'm definitely upset about it. I'm not sure if you know a lot about Brandon Marshall, but his whole spiel on things is that football is not his purpose, it's his platform. And his platform helps him, and his purpose is to help with mental illness, because Brandon Marshall had a mental illness and he wore green cleats to a lot of games. So that was his thing. He's just trying to get mental health awareness out there, get people knowledgeable about it.
But he achieved.
Yeah, he achieved it. He definitely did.
All right.
But with Marshall doing all this, he got a lot of media attention, and a lot of the coaches didn't like it. So Brandon Marshall, every Thursday or Friday, he would fly to New York during the game, during a normal NFL week, and have a local or a New York show an hour show every week. So it'd be taking time away from the team. And after Mark Trestman was fired, Coach John Fox came in and he asked him, "Hey, Brandon Marshall, are you going to keep doing this next year?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to keep up with this show." So first off, this isn't one of the questions, but what do you think about that? Does it show? I mean, because he's got a life after football, you know.
Sure.
Do you think that's smart by him, but going to New York every week for a radio show or a TV show when he could be focusing on winning games, which the Bears obviously didn't do last year?
Well, I think the Bears were focused on winning games. It's just they weren't very good at executing that, much like a lot of other Chicago sports, but we'll talk about that another time. I think most athletes have something outside of sports where they're working on something, whether it be a charity or an organization. A coach or general manager of any organization, whenever they see a player that does this, there is a concern because everybody is pulling for time on Brandon Marshall and other players that have stuff like that. So if Brandon's visits to New York are cutting into the Chicago Bears' time for workouts, for film, all this other stuff, and it starts impacting his play on the field, yeah, I understand why people should have a problem with that. I know that he has this desire and conviction to help out with those sorts of things, but his priority job, his platform, is football, and if it needs him to be at a certain place at a certain time, he needs to be there and represent that way, because his platform will crumble if he doesn't follow the rules that are there. Now, those things are placed by the general management, the coaches, and there's ways people can be more flexible on those sorts of things. I think whenever it comes down to it, you have to decide, all right, is it worth it to shackle Brandon Marshall in this situation? Is this really going to impact his play on the field? Is this really going to impact the locker room? If the answer is no, then let him go. And now that he's on the Jets, he doesn't have to really make those kind of trips anymore. So those don't become as much of a problem. So I don't think that really had anything to do with the trade. I think the Jets really needed a receiver. They need a lot more things. But I think it's a nice step in the first direction. I mean, it's a nice step in a direction for the Jets.
I think Brandon Marshall, or at least the Bears were trying to get rid of Brandon Marshall. They put him on the market. It looks like Jay Cutler is probably going to be out of here. If Brandon Marshall, his number one cheerleader, is gone, do you think Jay Cutler's probably gone too? I know they were talking about a swap with Bradford and Cutler, but
I really don't think so, because who's left for Chicago? I mean, you paid
Mariota.
this guy. You're in position to draft him, but even in that case,
I think the Jets will take him.
Even in that case, I don't think that he falls to the Bears, and I don't think it's going to be a situation. Even if they do draft him, do you want to start him day one when you've got a guy like Cutler who can at least put you in position to win? I think with a lot of quarterbacks that get drafted, everybody has these high expectations for people like Winston and and even Mariota. It goes back even with Andrew Luck, even that they're going to start in, come in day one and win. It's not going to be that way.
Well, it doesn't happen like that. It's a different style of game. I mean, Mariota's not going to throw like 3 interceptions. Only 3 interceptions as a rookie year.
Exactly. Do you think that Mariota comes in and plays better for the Bears than Jay Cutler would next year?
The only thing that why I'm thinking start Mariota over Cutler is because you know what you're going to get with Cutler.
Sure.
You know he's a gunslinger. He's got a great arm, but he makes some risky decisions and turns the ball over. Mariota, on the other hand, doesn't turn the ball over, at least on the college level.
Yeah, but this shouldn't be an either-or situation. If you're going to draft Mariota, draft him, but have somebody else there that he can have competition against in practice, so you know for sure that this guy's going to do better than him.
Yeah. So are you against starting a rookie quarterback day one?
I am, unless it's
even if it's Andrew Luck or RG3.
If you have no other choice, then you have no other choice. But if you're sitting with a rookie quarterback and you're wondering, should I start him or this veteran like Jay Cutler? I'm starting the veteran. I mean, for people in the Austin area that remember when Colt McCoy was drafted by the Browns, he was in a perfect situation. Like, all right, he might be good starting off, but we've got Jake Delhomme, who we know what we're going to get out of Jake Delhomme. He's not the greatest of all time. He's definitely not even average, but we're going to give Colt the opportunity to beat him out. Delhomme ended up getting injured, and Colt had to start right off the bat, but your rookie quarterback should have time to develop into the NFL. It's not an easy transition. And RG3 having his rookie year the way he had it, and rookie of the year and all that stuff, the system that he was placed in, the ability to run the zone read, to keep people in contention, he had a different talent set that allowed him to make an impact on the field and do well. At a certain point, his body started breaking down on that. At the end of the year, he had a couple of big injuries that put him out the rest of the season. The next year, you can't do that with RG3 anymore. You're gonna break down his body. He's gonna get injured again. So only if you have an exceptional quarterback that can give yourself a different sort of play like RG3 could, you've got to start the most experienced guy. I mean, that's just how things should go.
All right, Brooks. So the first question, I know we kind of went off on a tangent there, but the first question is going back to Brandon Marshall. It's from @StevenStrack on Twitter. Will Marshall's move hurt or help him in fantasy? I'm not sure if you're a big fantasy guy, but
no.
Alshon Jeffrey stole a lot of his receptions last year, but now he has Geno Smith throwing him the ball.
So we have a fantasy football question in March.
Dude,
so we got to do our homework.
Talking about football
for
as
about
much as possible. I mean, we got the draft and coming up in a month.
Don't you have like a basketball fantasy going on? Who's this guy? What's his name?
Steven Strack.
Steven Strack. All right. I think you need to be listening about it. Do you put Derrick Rose back in or not? Do you trade him or something? I know he's coming back in 2 weeks or whatever.
You don't trade Derrick Rose.
You trade Derrick Rose right now. He's not going to do anything for you right now. All right, we're going to talk fantasy. We got to talk fantasy basketball or baseball. But all right, Strack, just for your 4-month, notebook.
He needs all the help he can get. He got last in the league.
Okay,
and
so
his girlfriend had a draft for him too.
So his girlfend is writing up the questions and sending them in? Is that what's going on?
I guess so. He drafted Andre Johnson in the 3rd round for fantasy this year, 12-man league.
Sounds like Steven's got a couple of more issues to deal with other than Brandon Marshall being traded. Anybody getting traded to the Jets is a bad problem. If you're drafting people from Chicago or New York, we're in round 7 anyway in this fantasy draft.
Okay.
So,
all right. Would you even play fantasy?
I do. Yeah, I did.
How'd you do?
I did pretty good. I got 3rd place. It's not
any money in the pocket or no?
No money.
It's
I don't
winner
have any
take all.
money.
Winner take all. Oh, you just
I'm currently like $30,000 in debt right now. You're going to know what that feels like in
win
3
it back
years.
from fantasy football.
Oh, right. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question, Strack, but there you go.
All right. There's another football question. Do you want to answer that one?
What is it?
All right.
Side.
It comes from Clay Schroeder at C_Schroeder24. Do the Broncos
Schroeder?
have Schroeder?
Is he related to Scott Schroeder at all?
No, no.
Okay, because I'm assuming these are your buddies from high school.
Yes,
So I was
yes.
wondering if there were any connections.
No, but
No? Okay. That'd have been a soccer
his-
question if it was.
yeah. Do the Broncos have what it takes to make one last run at a Super Bowl ring, given a tough offseason in free agency?
As long as Peyton Manning is on that team, I think they do. I mean, you can say what he has. He's done last year, and he doesn't look like he always has. His arm strength is definitely gone, but I mean, he's even willing to take a pay cut. He's doing that right now, and whatever offseason moves they make off of that, they're going to improve as a team. Yeah, I think they do have a chance to make another Super Bowl run. Obviously, New England is going to be a tough team to beat. I think a lot of teams in the AFC, Kansas City on the rise, it's going to be a tough move for Denver, but I definitely think they're in the conversation.
I feel like, personally, I don't think the AFC is that great. I think it was literally just New England and Denver. I mean, I think Indianapolis was okay.
Indianapolis,
but they couldn't have.
No, Indianapolis had Andrew Luck, and that's it.
Indianapolis couldn't keep up with the top 4 teams in the NFC.
You're right.
There's no way. I don't think Denver could have either. I mean, we saw in the playoffs last year against Seattle, and I think New England's the only really good team in the AFC. It's like, honestly,
They're
I know
the most well-rounded. Yes.
I know your Texans are in the AFC, but I think the AFC is like the.
So you're talking about Jay Cutler, and now you want to bring in the beard.
No. The AFC
Fitzpatrick.
conference in football is like the Eastern Conference in the NBA. Do you agree with that?
No, I wouldn't, because there's not sub 500 teams coming out of the AFC into the playoffs, and that's happening in the NFC. So if you want to make
That's
a correlation,
division, though. It's different.
It's not. It's not different.
They should take the top whatever teams in each conference,
No.
not take the division.
I don't think so.
You think they should have a division?
Yeah, I mean,
Still keep it how it is. I don't think a team that's 7-9 deserves to be in the playoffs, and I don't think.
well, you have this difference in the NFL and the NBA. NBA, you're playing 82 games. NFL, you're playing 16. And how are you going to divide that up if you put the top 8 teams in to the playoffs? Because the way the divisions work, you win your division, you get in, you play all your teams twice. So whenever you clear out this division stuff, how are you going to figure out who's better than who? Because you're not going to play everybody.
Yeah, but I don't think a 7-8-1 team. I think that's what Carolina was last year. I don't think they should be in the playoffs. And the fact that Arizona was playing with like a third string quarterback, they were able to advance to the second round of the playoffs. They honestly could have. They had a chance to beat Seattle.
I agree that I don't think Carolina deserved to be in there at 7-8-1, but you could say this too: Seattle didn't deserve to be in there at 7-9 a few years back. They ended up beating New Orleans in the first round. I mean, just because a team is 7-9 doesn't. It means two things: either A, they're bad, or B, they have a tough division and they're losing all their division games and splitting them all.
Yeah, but the NFC West is a tough division when there's 2 teams who are in the playoffs there every year.
That's the other thing. You have moments where you can say, well, we're bad and our division's bad, so we get a chance to have a chance at the playoffs, or you can be like, oh, we're real good and our division's real good. Dang, I'm out of it. So it's not a perfect system, but if you split it out, there's no way that you're going to be able to decide who is the best 8 that go in, because you're not going to be able to play everybody. I just don't think there's the only way that you do that is by still sticking with, all right, I'm going to select teams from the NFC West, South, North, and East, and then we're going to play them and go. I just don't think there's a better answer for it whenever you have so few games.
All right, we have 30 seconds left, Brooks. So
30 seconds left.
Yeah, one last question for you.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more like a command. It's from Clay Schroeder again. He says, predict your 4 number 1 seeds for the NCAA tournament.
4 number 1 seeds?
4 number 1 seeds.
It's pretty easy at this point. You got Duke, obviously Kentucky. I'm going to go. Wisconsin's not in it.
You don't think Wisconsin's in it?
No, I don't think Wisconsin's in it.
I think they would be in it over. So who do you have? You have Villanova and Virginia?
Villanova and Virginia are my 4.
You don't have Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, no.
Why?
Big Ten's terrible. They're terrible.
No, I don't know about that.
They're terrible. It's not a big deal whenever you go and beat.
I mean, you think the Big 12 is good, but the top-ranked team is only number 10.
That's because they keep beating everybody. I just don't see
And an
any
SEC team is like
great.
arguably the worst
Wisconsin goes and
conference.
beats Minnesota. Great. The Gophers are real tough. And
I mean,
then-
Michigan State's tough.
right, Michigan State and Michigan.
Illinois is not bad.
Not bad, not good. I mean, the only three teams that are of any competence in there is Michigan, Michigan State, and Indiana. And then you throw in Wisconsin in there. Wisconsin's beating those teams. I just don't think it's a strong conference, so they're not in my top four.
I mean, didn't they make it to the Final Four last year? Same team, basically.
It's a team. You stick them at 2 seed, it's fine. But what Villanova and Virginia have done is much more impressive in my mind.
Yeah, but like when you look at teams like Virginia and Villanova, like, do they ever get to the Final Four? Like, rarely.
Well, you're not
Wisconsin-
judging. Okay, there's two things.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I know.
Two things that don't matter: yesterday and last year. Whenever you're talking about let's seed, Villanova right now less losses than Wisconsin. Virginia less losses than Wisconsin. They play in tougher divisions. They play tougher teams. RPI, put them in top 4 seeds.
I don't know, man. I don't think anyone can stop Frank Kaminsky and Samuel Decker. That's
You
just
just
my
like
opinion.
cheese. That's your deal.
I do not like cheese. I don't like cheese at all.
You like the Green Bay Packers. That's why you
no.
want to put Wisconsin in.
That's like, honestly, I think I'm just going to knock them down to a 3 seed just for that statement.
All right. Well, see, now you're on my page. There we go.
All right. So for the next, was it 1.5 hour and a half?
Well, we've got a live sports coming up with Vista Ridge and San Marcos in case you missed it. So we've got this coming up on KVRX Sports Live. Me and Mark will have something afterward for you, so we'll continue here on KVRX 91.7 FM.
University of